Welcome to the first episode of the Maze Talk podcast. Yes, it is the first episode. We are going to reset because after the Ohio State game, I just really never posted anything else. So what we're going to do, we're just going to get a full restart on the channel with a lot of episodes coming up soon. I think my plan is to hopefully upload every weekend. That's the plan. I have a few more podcast episodes in mind. But we're just going to get straight into it. Today's podcast is about my way too early Michigan predictions. Now, obviously, these aren't my official full predictions, as my full predictions will come about probably a day or two before the college football season will kick off. So we're just going to get straight into it. For the schedule for Michigan, Fresno State at home, Texas at home, Arkansas State at home, USC at home, Minnesota at home. So the first 5 games are at home. Then at Washington and at Illinois, versus Michigan State, versus Oregon, at Indiana, Northwestern, and then at Ohio State. So we're just going to jump straight into it. Starting off with Fresno State, which is a solid G5 team. I think that this won't be an easy game for Michigan. I'm not expecting a 42-0 win. I'm not expecting a 59-0 win. I'm not expecting a big win, but I also don't expect it to be a tight game, like a one-score game. That being said, I'm going to take Michigan to win this one with a score of 31-10. I think that Fresno State keep it close for the first quarter and a little bit into the second quarter, but then Michigan is just going to go on within the next few quarters and dominate the rest of the game with their new offense and their defense too, as a lot of the players and coaching staff have left. So this will be a completely different Michigan team from Team 144. Now, in week 2, our first big game of the season, in the Big House against the Texas Longhorns. Now, this is certainly going to be a tough game for the Wolverines. Nothing easy. SEC Texas. I think that this will be a close game. This will be hard for me to say, but I think week 2, Texas is the better team. I think the Texas Longhorns, as of now, in my way too early picks. Now, listen, we're going to get way down the stretch. I might change my picks. But as of now, I'm not too confident. I think that Texas will take down Michigan week 2 in the Big House by a final score of 24-20. I think that Texas is just a more high-powered team. I think that this Michigan team is very young, and I think that there will be a few big mistakes late in this game that are going to cost us the ball game. Now, Arkansas State, this will be our first quote-unquote cakewalk game of the season in the Big House against Arkansas State, Sun Belt team. I mean, it's not like it's a horrible team. It's just, nowhere near the 2 opponents that we've played this season. That being said, I do have Michigan getting a bounce-back win, and by a good margin, I think Michigan will get the win 42-3. Now, for USC in the Big House against the Trojans, a USC team without Caleb Williams. I think that USC is going to be, I'm not going to say awful, but they are not going to be as good as they have been in recent years. I'd put a floor for 6-6 for them. Now, I don't think they will be 6-6. I'm just saying that's the floor. The roof, maybe 10-2. I'm not liking this USC team. I think Michigan will beat them, and I think they will do it. Not easily, but not with challenge. I'm going to take Michigan with a final score of 35-14 over the Trojans. And then the battle for the Little Brown Jug, Minnesota I think, yeah, not really much to talk about here. I'm just going to take Michigan with a final score of 38 nothing. First shutout win of the season. And this our first road game, and it is at Washington, who we played in the national title. I think Washington's going to be looking for revenge, but I don't think they have the players that they had this year. Well, okay, they don't have the players that they have last season. Well, yeah, last season to be as good as they were. They, ooh, all right, hold on. They don't have the players this season that they did last season that made them such a good team. I think Washington's going to go on a downward spiral the next few years. They will be back up shortly, but I think the next 2 years will just be not building years, not necessarily building or rebuild years, but not as good as they have been in previous years. That being said, I'm going to take Michigan. Pretty close game though. At Husky Stadium. I still think it'll be close. I'm going to say Michigan 38, Washington 30. And then we travel to Illinois to face the Fighting Illini, where I will take Michigan with a score of 28-7. Then Michigan State. Michigan State is honestly, I think they will have a better season than they have recently. I think this is going to be an improving year for Michigan. I think they'll not be in contention for the Big Ten, but I think they'll be definitely a better team than they have been recently. Maybe an 8-4 season if they get lucky. But I'm still going to take Michigan, especially because we're at home at that time. I'm going to take Michigan. Final score 31, Michigan State 20. Then Oregon, one of the best teams in the country. Michigan with one loss at this point. I think that Michigan will get it done over the Ducks in OT. 28-25 final score from the Big House. And then we take on Indiana at Indiana. And that shouldn't be tough. I'm going to take Michigan with a pretty big win. 56-13. I'm going to take Michigan. And then Northwestern the week before the game. The Wildcats, I don't think they stand a chance against the Wolverines. Give me Michigan, 49. Give me Northwestern, 6. Took a minute there. And now the game. Obviously, the biggest game of the year, every year. Michigan could be 6-6. They could play the number 1 team in the country. They could play the number 2 team in the country. Ohio State could be unranked. Michigan would be 6-6. I'd still say that Ohio State's the biggest game of the year because it's the biggest rivalry in all of sports. Best rivalry in all of sports. Biggest rivalry in all of sports. Craziest rivalry in all of sports. That being said, in Columbus, last time we went to Columbus, it was Donovan Edwards who came up clutch for the Wolverines. Blake Corum injured for that game. Donovan Edwards, I wouldn't say carrying us, but not carrying us, but majorly helping us in that victory, 45-23. And with Donovan Edwards returning, give me the Michigan Wolverines and Donovan Edwards to light up Ohio State again in Columbus with a final score of 41-28. And then I got to stop there because I would have to do a lot more for the Big Ten Championship. But actually, no. Change my mind. Divisions are going to be gone. Michigan and Oregon rematch the Big Ten Championship. and I will take Michigan to get another win in the Big Ten Championship over Oregon. I will give it to them with a final score. High-scoring game. I say 45-39. Michigan gets it done. And then to the playoff, I think we will get ranked third. I think there'll be two better conference champions than Michigan. Michigan with a loss to Texas. I think Texas will be the number one, winning the SEC. I really don't know about number two. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. It's 2 or 3 for Michigan. 2 or 3 for Michigan. The loss to Texas, they're not number one. Texas going number one. And the playoffs that's where I have to stop, because then I got to do all these other teams making it to the playoffs, winning their conference title, the bowl bids, and then the New Year's Six teams. And I'm not doing that just for a way too early prediction. Yeah, there's no need to do that if we're doing just a way too early prediction. And that wraps up this episode of the Maze Talk podcast. Technically the second episode, but since we restarted, it's technically also the first episode. So yeah, that will wrap things up. Thank you for listening to the Midfield Sportscast, the Maze Talk podcast. Make sure you check out Midfield Sportscast. I am featured on there. Me, my brother, and my friend. It's basically the same thing as this, except it's not centered around Michigan. It's mainly all college sports, somewhat pro sports, a little bit in there every now and then. Make sure you check that out at Midfield Sportscast. Make sure you follow all of the other Maze Talk social media accounts at Maze Talk. Actually, just on Instagram. Just make sure you follow the Maze Talk Instagram at Maze Talk. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Blue.